Welcome to the Hinsdale Local Podcast, where we explore the journeys and stories of entrepreneurs and their businesses here in Hinsdale, Illinois. I'm Brent Stutzman, your host, and today I am joined by Patrick Fortelka.
That's correct.
All right. Co-owner and creative director at Moment Design. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thanks, Brent.
Okay, so I need to share with our audience how Moment Design became a daily reality in my life. And it's not because our offices are right next to each other here in Hinsdale. So I live close to North Street, which is in the Monroe School District, okay? And there's these beautiful homes that were there. And then within a period about a month, those beautiful homes were gone and they were knocked down and new construction started. And then my wife and I would take these long walks with our kids, and I saw your logo started popping up on one of them. And then almost adjacent, there was another house that was going up with another one of your logos. And I was like, Moment, man, Patrick he's everywhere. This is a thing. And so I asked you about it, several weeks ago. And I said, hey, I see one of your houses going up. And you said, oh yeah, that north. That's a tricky one because they're doing a double basement.
So you do a few of those.
And I was like, double basement all the way. Tell me more about this. And then we start talking about, the water and sub pump and all this other stuff. So fast forward several months, and I'm reading in the Hinsdale magazine that the doctor that was featured was the doctor at Hinsdale Orthopedics. And I can't remember. And he said, I can't remember his name, but you might remember.
I'm drawing a blank. Yeah.
Patel, yeah. Oh, yeah, Patel. And anyways, in the write-up, they're saying, he's like, I got my dream team, I got Moment Design. I'm like, Patrick, what? So I'm seeing you in there. And then I'm seeing flyers from realtors saying, that your logo's in that and some of the houses. So I was like, all right. So I jumped on your Instagram and I started looking at all the pictures that are on your Instagram feed. And I was like, my goodness, these are all the homes that my wife and I love the most.
Oh,
good. We're walking around the Monroe area and we're like, he built that, his team, what? That home's there? That's Matt, that's Moment, that's Patrick. I was like, so that's how you became a part of my daily life. It's not because we're neighbors here, but it's the fact that I see your design, I see really your beauty and making this Hinsdale, at least the place that we live in Hinsdale, like this beautiful place to live, because we have these beautiful homes that we get to look at as we walk around. And I want a double basement. Like, how do I get a double basement?
Money. It fixes every problem.
Well, okay, so that's how you became a part of my daily, because I drive by your homes every day. We walk by your homes every day. So, but I want to kind of back up to the beginning. So as I think about in my life, where I'm at now in my vocation, I can usually kind of tie these threads back to childhood, something in my childhood or teenage years, something I gravitate to. So I'm curious as an architect, as a designer, I'm curious if you could point something back to something you enjoyed as a child or your teenage years that was kind of forming you and kind of pointing you in this direction.
Not entirely. I will say growing up, I was always artistic. I always loved to draw. I would compete at our local 4-H club for the county fair. We would have actually arts and crafts and drawings as part of the county fair competition, along with some of the animals that we had as well. And always loved doing that. When I got into college, I decided I would like to make more money than an artist. So I decided I'd go into business and marketing like Brent and become wealthy someday and, have my own podcast. And was in business school for 3 years, and I was a junior, and I had a very good friend that had already graduated and started his own architecture firm, and he knew I had some ability to draw, and he was in a bind labor-wise trying to get a set of drawings out. He said, can you help me draw? I've got some plans I need to get out. And of course I said, I do not know how to do architectural drawings. And he said, you do know how to do architectural drawings. You just don't know it yet. And he set me up with a desk. And in 2 hours, I was doing electrical schematics. And then the next day I was doing wall sections and floor plans. And one thing led to another. I switched majors probably 2 weeks after that. completely flipped my life and decided I'd become architect instead. So I had to kind of reboot college, which took a little bit more time. But again, it was a kind of a surreptitious route to where I ultimately ended up in life. So kind of a life lesson there too.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, this is before YouTube, obviously. And so you had to, how does one just start drawing? I mean, did you have like an idea, like a template? This is what electrical schematics are. Or you're just doing some deep research on the fly. And
I would say that people that are kind of talented in architecture, and I think a lot of them would agree, it comes naturally to some degree. I have people that work for us right now that you can just give them an idea and they can glean your thoughts from the spoken word. I work with some really talented carpenters that are like that too, that we can communicate very succinct ideas because they can picture things in their heads. And that's what architects are really good at, is that spatial kind of understanding. And then it's just putting pencil down to make that space become reality 2D. So yeah, it's interesting. And having that drawing background, of course, is super important too, because I still draw by hand every single day. So, yeah.
Oh man, that's one thing I could never do well. My background is actually music. And so my ability to hear and play and make beautiful things with the music that was there, but I could never draw. It was really frustrating. I was always curious. I was amazed by people who can actually conceptualize something and then make it happen. Whether you're a street artist or, architectural designer.
That's the cool thing about architecture, is that it's not just the conceptual thing that we draw that is the art. It is the ultimate building or structure that comes from those drawings, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. It's not just a painting. You're actually doing this drawing that becomes a real thing.
Right. Something very physical, right?
And most of it isn't great. We look around, kind of architecturally speaking, there's not a lot of architecture in our day-to-day lives that is impactful. In fact, 99% of it isn't even good. And a registered architect designed that and drew it. The stuff that we're doing, we want to impact people's lives, and what you said earlier, do beautiful things through that creation. So that's kind of our niche. I think all architects should be doing this. But.
Yeah, I have another architect friend, and he thinks in that, like in space, not just being able to use a space, but like, what is that space communicating? Is it like a peaceful space, right? Like, is it...
What are you looking at? How does it make you feel?
Yeah. And he had us over to his home in Oak Park. And my goodness, it's like you don't want to leave. Like, it's just beautiful. You can just relax. And there's something, not to get too psychological, but there's something like, knowing that I work with a lot of therapists, they talk about creating a safe space to actually do therapy. So if you're going to do your therapy work, you actually need to create a space of safety. And, there's rooms. The way therapists like to have their rooms is, sometimes over stuffed couches or whatever, but they're creating a space where someone could feel safe to enter into trauma or talk about the trauma or whatever might be. And with Susan upstairs, it's like she's creating space for kids to be able to work on the things that they're going through, and usually using play therapy to do that. So, okay. Yeah, that's really fascinating. So, okay. So my next question then would be, I saw on the LinkedIn, Moment Design has been around for just maybe about like 5 years, something like that.
If even that. I think we're 4 years in right now. I was with another architecture firm, 2 others actually. The last one I was with for just shy of 20 years.
Wow.
And kind of came up through the ranks of that company and kind of headed up the entire residential division. While I was at the last firm, my current business partner, Raynette Bradford, was at that same firm, had been there for at least 15 years. So we kind of created their custom high-end residential wing. And after some time, we kind of looked at ourselves like, why are we doing this here? We could do this on our own. And at the time, we were doing very well there. Beautiful office, wonderful people, lots of friends there. So it was a major change in our lives, very risky as well. And scary time. And I was at the time, maybe I think 48 or something. So not a great time to be making a life change. It's a time
right. You're peak at the career.
Ending.
Yeah.
So a lot of risk there. But literally the day that we left, we got a call for a couple big projects, and it's been full steam ever since. So yeah, just should have done it years ago. But.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting because something comfortable job, doing really well. And then you start like, I can do this on my own. But take us like, what was that like the mindset that you had? Because it's, it's
burnout.
Yeah.
Just total burnout. That I had been doing this so long, and architecture, especially the work that we do, is super stressful. Our client base is very demanding, of course, because of the custom high end kind of world that we're working in. And when you're doing it for somebody else, it makes that job more difficult. Doing it for another boss, for instance, whereas doing it yourself is better. We still have the same stress at Moment Design, different stress, more stress, but it's better. I would never go back. Owning your own business is just so incredibly rewarding and right.
Yo, I love it. It's been, in my former profession, like I didn't realize, but I was in burnout stage. I just didn't know it. I just kept going and going and going. And now you're right. The burnout is like, it's just a little different.
It's a different,
It's a different, I don't
stress.
There's still the stress. But there's, I don't know if, it's not that it's more joyful. It's a different, because I was I was a pastor for several years in Hinsdale and loved it, serving people, doing music. Like I really loved it. And now I'm doing marketing. It's sort of like the way I'm serving people is just a little different. I'm still working my clients, right? Or have a boss. Like I'm there to serve. And in my role at the church, I was there to serve the senior pastor and the team. And, but it's just a little different way of serving people here. And it's actually being in the marketplace instead of like the religious marketplace. I don't know how to say it, but in the church world, like it's interesting because I'm interacting with just a whole bunch of other people. So, and just, I don't know, it's been really life-giving. It's been good for my family. And I feel like the way I can engage in my local church, is new and fresh as well. So it's just different. It's like going back, it's like being in civilian life as some of the pastors we talk about.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so burnout, stress. Now I have a question here. So now I imagine some people you managed at your last job at the last firm, you probably had some people working for you.
Yep.
So now that you are at the top, and those people, how are you kind of helping mitigate stress as a boss, like things that you have taken when you were an employee at the firm? How are you helping those underneath you? I'm just curious as far as...
Well, I would say that's really, to be totally honest, is that's kind of the struggle with owning your own business, is not doing the same faults of where you came from. And some of the staff, I'm sure you could bring them in here from my office right now, feel very stressed out at the office.
Yeah.
I think that they don't like their stress, but they enjoy working for Raynette and I, and our office is kind of fun to be at as well. So different culture than the place we came from. But that's definitely a place I would like to improve overall, is to be able to kind of provide the support for my staff so they don't feel so stressed out with schedule and things like that. But, we're barking up a tree here that I would say anybody that owns their own business feels these same pressures. And if you're good at your job and you're not stressed out, I can't imagine that, that if you're busy, you're going to have stress. And as people say, these are good things, which yes and no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. But
it's that always that balance, especially, this is a whole nother topic, but with like millennials and managing them, like it's different.
Oh, absolutely.
It is different.
Absolutely. And I have one that's a son. So he's a little unique because I didn't raise him completely as I think millennials have been raised. So I was maybe, a little less helicoptery around him than some parents are. But I don't know. I don't know if there is such a thing as a millennial thing, that our parents would have looked at us as being useless. Our parents looked at that generation as being useless. There's never been a generation that looked at the kids and said, wow, these are the kids that are going to just take over the world. They're so fantastic.
Yeah.
That every generation kind of looks at the younger generation as something wrong with them. So
the way I think of now, I'm like,
I feel it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I know it's not true, that these are good people and they're good kids. It's just that our perceptions of them is maybe off. But
This is a parenting podcast too, by the way.
there you go.
So what is your favorite aspect about running your own business?
Favorite aspect? I don't know. There's a lot that I really like about Moment Design. I would say the complete freedom and control over my creativity and the product. I had a lot of that at my last job, but at Moment Design, I can really kind of do anything I need to do with getting that product the way that I need it to look. It didn't have to go through any review. So yeah, it's more just kind of creative license that I can do anything I want at our office, and with our space too. That I like our office. We're going to be working on a renovation here to our own office shortly. That I can kind of trick out that space just for me and kind of use that as a marketing tool to show clients unique spaces as well. So yeah, that's the nice thing about owning your own business, doing what you want to do. There you go. Right.
Right. That's right. No review process other than your own, I guess.
Which is troublesome.
What would you say is the most difficult aspect? What's surprising maybe from where you were at the firm 4 years ago as far as difficulty of running your own business?
Staffing, 100%. Being able to scale up a workforce that allows Moment Design to effectively grow. When we started, we thought we were going to be able to boutique firm, just Ray and I, and maybe some drafting help. And within, a year, we knew we could really grow quickly. And we thought we could have 10 people in 2 years, which technically work-wise we could, but balancing, first of all, getting those people to do that work and then managing those people takes away from our ability to do architecture. Again, I'm barking up a tree here because I'm sure all small businesses feel this way. But it's 100% staffing is our biggest challenge, getting talented people and kind of growing the company.
Yeah, it's okay. We can bark up trees all day on that. Yeah. But so what's sort of like the dream team for you as far as, you guys, you being like a lead architect, but then like, who's your support staff? Like walk me through an architectural firm. Who do they need to hire to actually get
project
stuff done?
Managers or project architects, depending on the kind of nomenclature. So we have two of those people in our office right now that are fantastic. Becky and Agnes. And then they have support staff under them as well. The problem is that we probably could use two more of those project architects, and locating people that can actually do that work is challenging. They're right on the cusp of having that talent level of starting their own company. Those are the quality people that you need for project architects. And we've had some hiring glitches where we just got the wrong people, and they just didn't work out. So we're kind of stymied right now that we're trying to figure out, should we grow? Should we say no to new work and just work with our staff? So it's a really precarious position. It really is, because I would love to grow.
Yeah.
So
and so similar to me, as I'm really learning, the first thing I think about when I'm hiring now is culture.
100%.
So I had I had a conversation with a gentleman down in Colombia today as a VA, but he's got a marketing background. Super fun. Like, had a great. I had another conversation with someone else in Venezuela, and it just didn't work out. Not because they're Venezuelan, but it was just like, you could, like, at the end of the day, do you have chemistry? And then I started asking a little bit more about the technical side of things, of SEO and things like that. But we were laughing, we were smiling. I actually started off by speaking like the 3 Spanish words that I know, and he loved it. And so I think he'll be a good fit. But But that's actually been the thing I realized.
Carnitas, burrito,
yeah,
taco.
That's right. Those are three ones you know.
Yeah, once a week.
Yeah, so I realized I used to think got to get the skill set, the education, the background, and now I'm like, actually, I need a higher culture first. Or do we just can I imagine myself going on a road trip with this person?
Yeah.
Because we're going to spend some time together.
And that's what I was talking about earlier about a good architect could be right now a veterinarian. They might have that inner eye and they can learn architecture, but do they have the culture and the charisma to fit into that position? So I agree with you 100%. Finding that right person that fits in your office and your culture. And so I don't know, we're a little loony, so I don't know if we'll ever find anybody, but.
No, I have another curious question for you. So do you do most of the client facing work or does your project managers do that?
I do all of the upfront work. So I meet all new clients. I do our sales pitch, of course. And I do probably 90% of all the schematic designs. Ultimately, as the project develops, I take more of a backseat kind of call and complain to me role. And my project managers and my partner take over from that end and usually meet with most clients' needs throughout the construction process. If I had to do all of it, we would, do 4 houses a year at best. So it's, again, that staffing up that we could do more houses if I had more people to kind of take that role, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fascinating. Okay. So a lot of businesses had to pivot during the pandemic. I'm curious what that's been like for you. If there's been any pivoting, any changes the way you do work.
It was, of course, very weird to start. Thinking back to a year ago, how when the pandemic started, it was scary. I would like to say that I believe that COVID is indeed a danger to a lot of people, and it is extremely deadly. I never really was afraid for myself, I guess, so I probably didn't take it as seriously as I should have. But those first couple months was definitely creepy going to the grocery store. And there's nothing on the shelves. And we did shut our office down for a couple months. I continued to come into the office.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, me too.
You did as well. The building was pretty much empty, and I felt like, being at the office was better for me work-wise than working from home. I would say what we were talking about earlier before we started this podcast, that seems psychologically a lot of people miss coming to work too. So I can totally get that feeling. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Well, sure. Well, I'm curious, but it didn't seem like work slowed down for you.
Oh, not at all. No, we've only gotten busier over the last year, I would say. And I don't know if that's due to the market or due to our incredible talents, but I say that in jest, of course.
Yeah, people spending a lot of time at home. They're like,
sure,
we want a different home now, or change it.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a bump of people kind of coming out of the city too because of the civil unrest down there and wanting to move to the suburbs. A lot of national work as well off of Instagram. So a lot of different avenues of new work. But
that Instagram feed is amazing. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And it gets you a lot of work,
it's kind of crazy for a free platform. I shouldn't say that. Instagram might hear it and start charging.
Yeah. It sounds like those hashtags are working for you.
They do. Yeah. And all of our growth on Instagram has been organic. We've never paid extra to, get more feed or more looks or anything like that. It's super important that the people that are clicking are people that are in architecture. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot. Okay. So we talked a lot about hiring. We talked a little bit about COVID. And as a business owner, I know there's always something on your mind about what's next. Like what's been occupying your mind as far as your business goes and looking into the future? Or I'm just curious what's in your mind.
I would say I've always been a worrywart with regards to economic downturn, having lived through the last recession, which was hard on the building industry in general. Again, we were in a custom high-end residential world that was somewhat protected from that, but we took some pretty massive pay cuts, and those were challenging times to be sure. I keep thinking we are well overdue for this downturn. When is it coming? And I felt that way for about 4 years now, that especially with the way they keep lowering interest rates and some other economic indicators, that we're kind of running out of all the tools that we need to stoke the fire again if we need to. Sort of dumping gas on a campfire kind of idea. That's the way it feels to me right now. And the stock market does just the opposite of what I keep thinking it's going to do. And we keep breaking records every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I talked to a lot of people in finance as well as other builders. They don't have a lot of answers either. They're just kind of riding this thing that it just keeps growing and growing. So interesting that, but we're in a kind of a twisted market because of the type of work that we do. Yeah. So I would say if you talk to an architect that does retail right now, he's getting killed. It's going to be terrible. Yeah. You know, so, or schools or right. That's not getting used.
Yeah. On a podcast recording earlier today, we were one of the business I was talking to, he's like, really, my business is now going to be funding and buying other businesses or buying land or commercial property, like basically setting up a savings account. Because he says, we've printed more money in the last 6 months. Than we've ever so he's like, you're going to start to see the signs of inflation. And usually that goes with commercial, according to him. And he's like, we're having to think differently about our business as setting us up. How do we get through maybe a mini recession or a regression or something?
And real estate is ultimately the best thing you can kind of hold on to through those times.
Yeah.
You hope that always comes back. But the debt is another one. I'm glad you brought that up, that I look at our national debt. Just extraordinary explosion of cash printing that, again, seems counterintuitive, that the stock market continues to go up based on kind of just the idea that we just keep printing money and creating more debt for the millennials to pay off, that we were just bad-mouthing that we're going to stick with the $29 trillion nation.
Yeah, I keep thinking, I got my last stimulus check, the last check that Trump signed. And I was like, I don't know why I'm getting this check. I didn't need it.
Yep.
And I just kept thinking, my grandkids are going to have to pay this off or something. And I was just like, wow, so as a business owner, I'm thinking I would never, you have to run a bit. I would never run the business like we are as a government. And I just got kind of concerned with all the printing of the money and the handing out without kind of some threshold or something. But yeah, let alone I got a check in the mail, and I was it was the first check that I was like, I'm conflicted checking, depositing this thing. Yeah. It was weird.
And that there was that much waste that we saw up front individually. The corporate bailouts are just astronomical. You know what? The $1 trillion that they gave to the American people is nothing to the $2.5 trillion that went to the biggest corporations in this country.
Yeah.
You talk about waste.
Yeah.
And that's where the stock market, I think, is really being propped up by the fact that $2 trillion that the government spent in the last bailout went to corporations to prop them up. So really interesting, huh? That the stock market numbers aren't real. It's all based on continued idea that we're going to keep bailing out through printing money. So, where are we going with this?
I don't know. We parenting, economics, design, housing. Yeah. I just got two more questions for you. What has owning a business taught you about yourself?
Just that every single day, and you've heard this before, that you can learn something new, especially in architecture. And I'm a little biased, but it's one of the hardest jobs that you can do. You have to know so many other people's business, from decorators to the concrete guy. You have to know how to do all these things. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and I really am learning something new every day. And when you continue to stop learning, you're cooked in this business, I think. And that's, my staff would agree too, just crazy how every day there's something new that I didn't know that. And you have to add that to the memory banks. So.
Yeah. Same in the marketing world, man. It is just it changes because Google changes things, and Facebook, sure. So you're just always on your toes. You have to, I call it the great game. How do you get your clients on page one of Google, and trying to figure that out in a way that won't get you penalized by Google. I lied. I actually have one more question. my question is, what are you seeing in design right now for homes? What are people wanting besides the double basement?
Big houses are still pretty traditional, but I would say there is definitely a lean to more contemporary homes. The idea of the Tuscan or French home is definitely starting to wane. Younger people don't have a lot of interest in mimicking wealthy European life, which is good. I think architecturally speaking, it's kind of a failure that we're mimicking ancient Grecian forms on buildings. It just makes no sense. So as an architect, I like thinking a little bit more forward. And our houses, most of them have a traditional idea or form to them with more contemporary components. And most importantly, within our houses, we're creating moments within those houses and on the exteriors. And that's not kind of a play on words. That's a real architectural term, is just having someone pause to consider our architecture. You've done it.
Several times.
So that's a win for us. If we could just get you to think, you don't even have to like it necessarily, but just pause and have a moment. And when you live in one of our houses, we get this from clients all the time. I had no idea it was going to be like this, living in this house and having these windows lined up in this way that I get this framed view every day, and super important stuff. So
I've noticed that, man. You guys got like lots of windows in your homes.
Yeah, again, so super contemporary idea.
Yeah, you can see right through them. I love it.
See right through them.
Because like at about 6:30 at Hinsdale, if you go on a walk when the weather's nice, everyone has all the lights on. You can see, see through the homes and see the beautiful.
And that's not for everybody, and we balance that out. But that. What do you call that when you like looking in people's houses? It's a sickness for most people, but most architects
like voyeurism.
It's architectural voyeurism. That in the wintertime when you're driving down the street and you look into an open window and there's a family, having dinner in there, and what an intimate snapshot that is of a house and a family and the people that live there and how warm that feels. And that's really what we're trying to capture with those big windows on houses. It's not just being, avant-garde or crazy with glass, that we're letting people peek into kind of the soul of the house and the people that live there. So,
okay. I have another question now. So sorry to the listeners here. So, contemporary and modern, two different things.
Yeah.
Okay. So modern
already happened.
Yeah. Modern.
So.
Good. Okay. Because I think of modern house like contemporary, because contemporary is always changing, I would imagine.
That's right. Yeah. It's just
modern is sort of, it's happened.
It's an architectural style. I guess you could continue to do modern houses, but that was a time, and modernism may have started in the 1920s with the works of, Frank Lloyd Wright technically was a modernist. Now, if you look at his houses, I've had people say, it looks like something in the 70s. And it's because it was 1890 when he did that. That's like, that's modern.
Yeah.
But that said, modern is a style. Contemporary is more kind of a modern twist on traditional, I guess, would be the best way of doing that.
Okay. That's helpful.
There's still modern being created. But.
Well, you built, I would consider maybe a modern / contemporary house in Hinsdale. It's not too far from, and I know because it's on your Instagram feed, and I know you build thousands of houses. So I think it's on Hickory. Love it. It's almost like two separate.
Super Napa, feels like wine country.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
It's probably one of my favorite houses. That's like the idea of architecture for me, that we've captured the idea of a house, but it's different, and it has the idea of modern to it. Sometimes we see modern houses stuck into neighborhoods, and they are literally a middle finger to the neighborhood and its context. That's poor architecture.
Yeah.
White stucco, silver windows, flat roof, just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And that might look good out in the woods, but it looks really bad in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that house, actually, we kind of wrestled with what to do. The client wanted a modern house. So that's how we came up with it.
It's something that's not a middle finger to the neighbors. Yeah.
And we did get some blowback on that house. The neighbors still weren't happy about it, but you know what? It's okay now.
Yeah. It's like,
you get used to
it's
it.
America. You can buy a plot of land and
some
but
degree.
I don't think it sticks out. I think it sticks out in a really beautiful way, actually. Not in a way that's like contemptuous. Okay. So, all right. My last question then is, so if there was a student from Hinsdale Central that was interested in design architecture, what should he or she be doing now? What should they be thinking about is focusing on in college? I mean, I know colleges have a lot of combined programs these days, but like maybe as a high school student, what should they be thinking about? What should they be learning, doing? What advice would you have for them?
It depends on what they want to do with their lives. Most architects, probably 90% in our profession, do zero design every day. They work for big companies in the city, and they manage their department that arranges bathrooms in, office buildings or something. That's the 90% of architecture in the world is dealing with handicap accessible codes and energy codes and kind of the technical end of it. Some people kind of really like that. Easy to study for, easy to get very good at. The design aspect that I was hinting at earlier, if you're really interested in that, there aren't a lot of good designers globally speaking. Again, when I think about the buildings you go by every day, the best office building you've seen, there aren't many. And they're all done by architects that went to college and supposedly love architecture. And I don't see a lot of great architecture going up out there. So that's telling us that there are a lot of architects. There's not a lot of great designers out there. So if you really want to become that architect, you have to focus on art, the art end of architecture. And that is harder to study for. And that's harder to get good grades at because it's subjective.
Yeah.
Which is it's like the difference between literature and poetry. That top end of architectural designers are the poets of our industry. I don't consider myself one of those either by a long shot. I look at other people's work and at that level, I'm just like, wow, they've really thought this through and this is beautiful or interesting. So if you're interested in that, focus on the art end of it and staying creative and kind of wacky and unique, thinking from things from a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think don't sell yourself short. I think you are a bit of a poet in that. Just the fact that just Susan and I walking around, we recognize beauty. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful homes, but there's like, you have a unique style in that. And so
we're trying.
Yeah. I think
every day I'm working hard.
Yeah.
On it, so.
Well, first of all, thanks for joining me. This was really fun. Yeah.
It was.
How can people get to know more about you, Moment Design? Where can they go? Website, Instagram feed? You remember those?
Yeah, we do have momentdesign.net, which I was told when we started our company was the kiss of death for a corporation having a .net on the web, which of course is totally bogus because our website it's there for you to look at some things that are done. But I would say by far Instagram is the place to really kind of look at things that we're doing day to day and the freshest work. The other nice thing about Instagram is we always link people that are also responsible for those projects.
I know you're tagging people on that. Yeah.
Which again is kind of building those relationships and community of designers and builders that are talented as well. So,
well, that's interesting because I went on your website. There wasn't too much information outside of contact information, but like your Instagram page is like your sales page.
Yeah.
Like that is like,
it's gone crazy. It's really great. And I was not an early adopter. I always believed in it, and I had worked on it with my managing partner, Raynette. But I don't get it 100%, but I use it. Yeah. So I think it's just because I'm older, maybe. It just doesn't resonate well with me, but I don't know.
No.
Do you use it?
I've slowly stopped using Instagram. Probably because of what I do isn't really Instagram friendly. Now, so we just signed a fence company of all people. We're going to make them the top fence company in Chicago here in these next couple of years. Yeah, bespoke fence, and they do custom fences. And my friend who actually brought the client over to me, he's been doing a lot of video for them and Instagram and things like that. But for fences that are high-end fences, something that's very visual, Instagram is like pretty awesome for it.
It does make sense.
Yeah. So we're going to lean into video. At the end of the day, I believe whoever uses the most video will win. And especially in these, the industries that are so visual, like architecture, fences and things like that, because people want to see the product before they buy it at the end of the day. So for me as marketing, I don't use a lot of Instagram, but YouTube, things that are creating content around search intent and things like that. And, a little bit of this podcast is just getting to know the other businesses in my neighborhood in Hinsdale. And because just on my block alone, there's a couple people who own their own businesses, like either family owned or whatever, like
Absolutely.
like manufacturing, food. There's even someone used to be one of the founding groups of Groupon. I mean, just like these amazing stories. Even the neighbor across the street, former CFO at T-Mobile. Like I'm like, amazing stories and so I was like, I need to start interviewing because there's even business owners that are I'm going to have just local businesses at the end of bricks and mortar. Like that's my goal. And I think at the end of the day is like, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we have a lot to learn from each other. But I think even with COVID, as we kind of like, we've hibernated for so long, like it's good for us to actually know our neighbors. So the goal of this podcast is for people in Hinsdale to get to know the businesses and the business owners in Hinsdale. Because I think businesses, they obviously exist to solve problems, but we kind of have like a town full of problem solvers. I think that's really interesting to me to kind of know how they actually go about solving people's problems every day.
Yeah,
and people are willing to pay them for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of capitalism in that, right? Okay, so all right, folks. Well, you got a good dose of parenting advice, economics, and design, architecture,
Government debt.
government debt on this podcast.
USDebtClock.org. If you've ever wanted to see the craziest website, I visit it. I'm not kidding. At least once a quarter. It's keeping a running tally of all debt in the country and national or globally, actually. So USDebtClock.org is the coolest website. If you want to see something really depressing,
maybe I can. I'll turn it around and make it a challenge. I'll ask my 7-year-old girls if they could count the zeros.
Yeah. What does
and then what's the number?
Trillion mean? Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation useful, subscribe to the podcast, share it with one of your Hinsdale neighbors, and please join me again next time for the Hinsdale Local Podcast.